Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you another little Highland cow, or a Heiland Coo, as a lot of you have told me that they're called. Y'all wanted one that had flowers on it and one that was a little bit smaller. This one is only that tall. It's about 4.5 inches tall. If you want to know how to make this little gal, stick around. I'll show you how. Okay, for this one I'm going to use a piece of styrofoam insulation. It measures 1 7/8 inches in diameter, and I'm going to cut it off at 2.5 inches. Next, I'm taking a 1/4 inch dowel stick. I sharpened it at 6 inches in length, and I'm going to push it into a 2-inch styrofoam ball. And then I'm going to cut the end of it off because I don't want it hanging out on the other side of my noodle. Just kind of make it the same length as the noodle, and then go ahead and glue it into your noodle. Next, I'm going to take a piece of faux fur that measures 6 inches by 5 inches. This was just a scrap I had left over. And I'm going to glue in a 1-inch strip of craft foam on the inside part, hanging halfway over the edge. And then you're going to go ahead and pull your fur back a little bit, comb it back, and then we're going to wrap it to the other side and overlap the other side onto this side. Just kind of make a casing in there to close it up. Okay, once you get it good and dry, we're going to go ahead and separate the fur. And then we are going to run a bead right down the center of that seam, and then we are going to glue that fur shut. Now, this is not going to make your fur hard or anything like that. It's still very, very soft. It's just on the very inside edge of it. You'll never even notice it. Then go ahead and comb your fur out straight down. Okay, then go ahead and drop your noodle on down inside of there with the fur going downward, and pull it up over the styrofoam ball until it is flush with the bottom. Next, I'm using some embroidery floss, and I'm just going to gather up the top. Now, I'm doing 1/4 inch stitches all the way around. Now, you need to make sure that you have a pretty sharp needle on this one because it is a little bit hard to get through this faux fur. Just take your time and you can get it through there. Just do 1/4 inch stitches all the way around, and then we're going to draw it up into a knot at the top. But you want to make sure that you are using a thick thread. And then tie it up in the middle. And then before we tie our knot, we're going to go ahead and put some hot glue inside of it just to hold it all together. And then I'm going to tie it in a knot. And then trim off the excess thread, and we're going to put a little bit more glue down in there. Okay, next I'm just going to pull my fur all the way down to the bottom, and I'm just going to go ahead and trim off any excess that hangs over because I do want my little cow to sit up straight. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some glue all the way around just to hold that fur in. Okay, next I'm going to come back in with just a piece of craft foam, the size of the bottom of this, and I'm just going to seal it in. And I think that was a 2-inch piece of craft foam that I did there. Then go ahead and comb out your little cow. And then make sure it's glued in good. Just make sure that the whole bottom is sealed in. Okay, next we're going to separate the hair. Where the bottom of the ball is, where it connects to the noodle, you're going to comb all up, and then you're going to comb all the other half down. Just kind of really get it straight in there because we're going to divide the head from the body. Okay, next we're just going to take our string and we're going to wrap it around the center. Now, I didn't know this until later on after I did this video, but if you do 2 loops when you tie your first knot, you know, run it through 2 times, it'll tie up real fast, more like a surgical knot, and it'll stay. You don't have to sit there and put your finger on there to hold it while you tie the other knot. But you want to make it pretty tight. And then cut it off right pretty flush up there. And then go ahead and straighten out your hair. And I'm just kind of giving it a side part, kind of making the hair stand up kind of on the top, just kind of making it real wispy. Next, I'm going to cut 2 1-inch by 1-inch pieces of the same faux fur. And this is what we're going to use for the ears. Just cut behind the faux fur only, not through the fur, and then go ahead and clean any excess off. Next, I'm going to sharpen both ends of a 1/4 inch by 6 inch dowel stick. Next, I'm taking a piece of contrasting fleece, and I'm just going to cut a 2 inch by 1 inch piece, fold it in half, and I'm going to cut the shape of an ear. So it's really just going to be like cutting the shape of a leaf. And you kind of want it a little bit thin. I got it a little bit thick right there, but you can see me come back. I'm going to do it a little bit thinner. You can kind of freehand this. Okay, next I'm going to take those 1 inch squares of the faux fur, and I'm going to point my ear outward where the faux fur is running downward. And we're going to glue this in. Now, don't glue at the very, very top because we're going to put a stick in there. I had to go back and put it back in. So just don't glue this until we cut our stick. We're going to take our sticks and we're going to cut them down. And you want them relatively short. I had to go back in and trim one of mine a little bit shorter to get it through the other side. So, but you're going to pick that back up and put that underneath there. So it needs to be inside of that ear like that. And then you go ahead and trim your ear to match trim the faux fur to match the ear shape. Okay, next I'm going to pull out my X-Acto knife and I'm going to cut a hole in the side to put this ear in. Now I'm coming down, you know, pretty good distance, probably about, I'm going to say at least 1.5 inches to put my ear in because I do still need to put the horns above the ear. So just go ahead and push it all the way in there and then we'll glue these in a minute. And you can really have to push on those solid styrofoam balls. They're pretty hard. Then go ahead and fluff the hair up around it. And then we're going to do the same thing with the other ear. Now I'm having to cut this one just a little bit short because that styrofoam ball, it'll interfere on the opposite side when I put that one in, but I'm going to build this ear exactly the same way. You're just doing it on the diagonal. Put your stick in there first and then go ahead and glue your ear in. And then glue the top part of the ear to the stick. And then go ahead and trim it out just like you did the other one. And just make sure that it's glued down really good. Just go right back around the edges real quick just to make sure, because you want to make sure that it's solid so you don't see it. Okay, now match it up with the other side of the ear and put it in the same place on the opposite side. Go ahead and cut it with your X-Acto knife. Then I'm going to use a little stick just to kind of help push it all the way through a little bit easier. Just to kind of open it up so I can get that ear in there a little bit easier. Just kind of help waller it out a little bit and then just go ahead and push that in there. Okay, next to build the mouth, I just cut a 2 inch circle in half, and then I'm going to cut it in half again. And then I am going to start bending it, and then I'm going to cut it again on the diagonal. So I'm just going to kind of cut another moon out of it, just straight across. Because it was a little bit big once I put it up to the face, so I'm going to cut it one more time. So it ends up being about 1/2 inch wide or tall, and you're just going to start squeezing it at the top and squeezing the sides because you want to make sure that it's pretty curved. Next, we're going to take another piece of fleece, the same like one we did with the ears, and we are just going to glue our nose right down to it. Go ahead and go up one side. So it's probably about a 3 inch by 3 inch, and you're going to stretch it around there because you want the front of the nose to be smooth. So go ahead and pull it all the way around from one side to the opposite side. Kind of squeeze it shut there, let it dry good, and then we're going to start curving up the sides. And this fleece stretches so good, so you want to make sure you use something like fleece because you are going to be able to get this pretty smooth if you do use fleece. Just kind of want to do all the sides, and then we're going to pull it all to the back. And then the hair will cover up a lot of it, so you won't see a lot of that too. It's almost like a orange wedge. And just go ahead and cut the rest of the bottom of it off, and then we're just going to start gluing that in. Kind of really squeeze it up there together because we're going to glue it up pretty tight. You just try to get most of the excess fabric off of there, and then because we are going to add a stick here in a minute to glue it in. Okay, next on the stick, I'm just going to go ahead and sharpen it, and I'm just going to go ahead and take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to cut an opening in the bottom. And then see how I'm squeezing that together like that? We're going to start squeezing it together when we're gluing the stick in because we want it curved. Just try not to go through the opposite side of the nose. And then I'm just going to trim it a little bit shorter because I don't need a lot, just enough to go right into his head. And then I'm just going to glue that right to the stick. And then I'm going to glue on both sides of the stick and start pulling it in. Just get a little bit of glue on both sides and then hold it together. And next, we're going to make the little nostrils, and I'm just taking one of the smaller of the little eyes, the smallest one, and I'm just going to poke a hole on both sides of this and just evenly space them out. And then I didn't glue mine into there because those barbs held it in. Then come into the part of this, go onto the main styrofoam ball that's back there and go ahead and poke a hole in here, and we're just going to go ahead and put his mouth right on here. Just kind of twist it in there and get it exactly where you want it. And then go ahead and take it back out, and we're going to glue it in. Next, we're going to take a 3/4 inch ball with a brown clay and a 1 inch ball of tan clay. Go ahead and roll your tan clay into a log, and then go ahead and attach your pieces, and then we're going to roll it out to make it as one piece. Now this looks a little bit funny right now when you get these on, but I'm going to show you here in a little bit. We're going to transform them into some horns. Go ahead and roll them out, figure out how long you want them, make your points, turn them up, cut it in half, and then add your wire. And you don't need a lot of wire hanging over the edge, but you want enough wire to go down into it so you can at least get it up to where the end of the yellow is, or the tan color is, because we are going to trim these off to put them into the top part of his head. Just curve those up, bake them at 275 degrees for 30 minutes, then come back in, add some more of the tan color onto it just to smooth out the separation of the two colors. Just kind of make them a little bit uneven up at the top, and that way they're more blended out. Then bake them again at 275 degrees for 15 minutes. We're going to make the hooves. We're going to take two 3/4 inch balls of oven baked clay, flatten them out, and then we're going to squeeze the front open a little bit, kind of make a point there for the hoof. And then we're just going to do a line separation from between the middle of them just to kind of separate them open. And then I'm going to add some wire to them. I'm using about maybe a 3-inch piece of wire. I'm going to curl the end. I'm going to put it into the back of the hoof, and that way it'll stay in after we bake it. Just push them on in there and then close it up in the back, and we're going to bake these for 30 minutes at 275 degrees. Next, go ahead and remove your ears, and we're going to go ahead and start gluing those in. Just glue it right in on one side, and then do the same thing for the other side. Okay, next we're going to take our X-Acto knife. We're just going to go right above that ear, poke a hole in there, and that's where we're going to add our horns. I'm just taking a little piece of a metal stick, and I'm just going to kind of waller it out a little bit, and we are going to have to trim those wires off just a bit to get it in there, but you want to kind of poke it in there as far as you can get it. That was a little bit too long, so I am going to come back in and I'm going to cut that a little bit shorter. You probably don't really need but maybe an inch to go inside there. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and start gluing them in. Just put a little bit of glue inside, and we're going to put a little bit of glue on the wire and on the tip part of the horn. And just go ahead and push them on in there. Just make sure that your horn is sticking straight up. And we can adjust these after they get completely put in there because they are on wire. And they're going to do the same thing for the opposite side. Go ahead and cut it a little bit short. And then just make sure that you match them on both sides. I think the hardest part is just getting the hair out of the way so that you can cut them. And then just getting that wire into there. You don't have to pull real hard on the horn, so go ahead and use something to do that with. And then go ahead and glue that one in as well. Okay, now we're going to come in and we're going to go ahead and put our feet in, or our hooves in. So just go ahead and separate the hair in the front exactly where you want them to go. And we're just going to stick these right into the styrofoam, and then we'll glue them in. Just kind of make sure you space them out a little bit. But just get your hair out of the way good so you can get in there. Okay, just poke a hole in there with your X-Acto knife and kind of waller it open a little bit, and then go ahead and put it in there. And then you're going to do the same thing for the opposite side. And then just go ahead and cut it off if it's a little bit too long. And then go ahead and trim that other wire to be the same length as the other one. And then we're going to go ahead and glue them in. So just make sure you know exactly where it's going to go. And then we're going to just put a little bit of glue inside of there. And we're going to put a little bit of glue on the hoof itself. And then do the exact same thing with the opposite side. Next, I'm going to attach an eye, and I'm going to do one on each side, and that way you can figure out if you don't want his eye open on one side, you can switch his hair over to the other side. You can change him up a little bit. Just going to go above the nose a little bit, go attach that in, and I'm going to do the same thing for the opposite side. Now, I'm not going to glue these in because the barbs on those are holding really well inside of that styrofoam ball. Just make sure that they are even, and then just go ahead and push that on in. Okay, next I'm going to make the flowers for the top of the head. I'm just going to take 2 pieces of eucalyptus. I'm just going to trim them down a little bit so they're not so bulky, and I'm just going to wire them together. And then I'm going to take a couple of little yellow flowers. I'm going to put one bigger yellow flower in the center, and I'm going to put a little yellow flower on each side. Okay, after those dry, we're going to go ahead and separate the hair in the center because we want it to go right down the center, and then we are just going to glue it right on top. This guy turned out so super cute. I was real happy with him. He's about half the size of the first one I made. If you like these kind of videos, hit like. If you want to see future videos, hit subscribe. And if you want to be notified when I have another video upload, hit the bell. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.